Namaste everybody, my name is Garvit Jain, and here in this podcast we discuss social issues with sociological perspective. And in our first video we discussed about coloniality, decoloniality, and its consequences in the education sector. And we saw that how does it impact the lower section, the underprivileged section of the society, coming from the rural areas, backward areas mainly. If you haven't watched it, then you should watch it. This video can be watched alone. This is not in the continuation of the first video, but the theme more or less remains the same, wherein we are looking at the decoloniality project from a critical perspective. What is decoloniality? So in this particular video we would be talking upon paradoxical nature of coloniality, and that is why we have named the topic as paradoxical coloniality and class perspective, right? The idea came into my mind when I was traveling in the railways. I was coming from Bhopal to Delhi, and it was as usual a 7 hour journey, which actually became almost 24-hour journey. Yes, so the train was like more than 14 hours late, and the train's name is Shane Bhopal. It is India's arguably, I guess, not very sure, first ISO certified train that runs between Bhopal, which is in MP, and Nizamuddin, which is in Delhi. Usually, the train takes 7 hours, 7 to 8 hours, 8 hours around, as it is said in the Indian Railway website. But generally, it gets late. But delay of 2 to 3 hours in India, in Bharat, is generally expected under the tolerable limits. It is under the tolerable limits. But that day we left Bhopal at 10 p.m. and we were expected to reach here at 7 a.m. next day. But you won't believe that not only did we miss our breakfast, but also the lunch and even the dinner. Okay, train arrived here at 10 p.m. There was no pantry in the train. You can understand what would be the condition and situation of the passengers sitting in the train. A slight little bit of information about my journey, because this was the moment where I thought that yeah, I should make a video upon this. I recorded the video. It was a kind of reportage. It was not to criticize the government. It was just to give Indian Railways a feedback, review, and some suggestions based on the lived experience of the passengers who travel in these trains, thinking that they would reach their destination on time, but train actually gets delayed inordinately and excessively, which affects the lives of the people in various ways. To know more about it, I made a report on it. I took the opinions of the people in the train. I took the initiative. People were very frustrated, very irritated because of the huge delay, because of unavailability of the food, because of lack of information updation, because of no apologies from Indian Railways and no compensation because of on losses that they suffered. For example, a friend of mine had the last date of the registration of the college registration for some program in Delhi University. He couldn't do it. I had my own friend with me who is in GST department. He had some official work. He couldn't do it. Some people got their return tickets booked, and they had to cancel the return tickets, which wouldn't have given them the refund. Okay, a couple of people just got down the station only to get onto the next train, because they had planned this one day journey, that they would come here at 7 a.m. and then they would visit the places where there is work for them, do their official works, and they would visit a couple of other tourist places, and then they would return at the night. But They only got down the train on the station only to, board on the next train the same day. So they couldn't actually leave the station. Such was the pathetic condition. Why is it so? Why is there inordinate delay? Why have we normalized the delays in the train journeys? Why? What problems do do it cause? What problems does it cause? You know, what concerns does it raise? What structural organizational flaws, inefficiencies are there in the working of the Indian Railways? What is the larger picture? Okay, we would try to look at it from the class perspective, hoping that Indian Railways would also reflect and make the necessary reforms in its working. This was about me. If you are interested into I made a vlog, I made a reportage in the train itself. I interviewed people going to their berths and knew their lived experiences, knew their concerns, their suggestions, their feelings. And no mainstream media generally comes inside the train, and interview the people, but I did that because I suffered it, I felt it, and I thought that somebody should take the initiative and bring this thing to the limelight, because railways are an essential part of our lives. Only a cream of the society travels in flights. Otherwise most of us travel in the railways only, and if they are getting inordinately delayed, then this is a cause of concern. We should go into the root of the problem. This was largely the background, largely the nudge. This nudged me actually to look at the issue sociologically. Coming to the topic, the main topic, which was paradoxical coloniality. Okay, firstly, a little bit about me. I have studied sociology. I had my master's in sociology, and I'm a NET JRF researcher in the same. And I have studied other disciplines academically, political science, history, economics, and others. So I feel that I have the adequate knowledge, adequate qualification to speak upon the issue. But I at the same time also say that not everything that I'm saying is correct. I'm open to criticism. Constructive criticism are more than welcome. Please do it. I'm open for that. And do not judge is another thing. I might be playing devil's advocate at somewhere. And do not judge. That is all. India has had the tradition of samvad, shastra for a very long time, and we should carry it forward. There might be some differences, and it is okay to have them. Don't think that I am anti-government, I am anti some political party, some political leader. No, I am not like that. If we can give some suggestions for the betterment, for the reforms, for filling the gaps, bridging the gaps, whatever they are there, then it is good. Okay. Okay. So the topic says that paradoxical coloniality. Now let me break down the topic. Paradox is something which is if we say that there is a paradox, then there are two contrasting things. And coloniality, paradoxical coloniality. Coloniality is the mindset, is the mindset that Britishers, that the colonial powers, the European powers, the imperial powers who settled on our land, on Bharat, who settled there and ruled us, left. The mindset that they left. How is it different from colonization, that we would discuss? Colonization is the arrival of the European powers. For example, Dutch were there, French were there, English were there. The most important one, the dominant ones, English were there. They came here. British East India Company came here, settled in India, and they gradually took over India, not only economically, because they came with the trading mindset, but eventually they turned into the political power. Okay, so they actually built their own structures, administrative structures. They ruled us, they became our rulers. This is what is colonialism. Going to another territory, going to far off territory from our own native land, own, home, and settling there, getting settled there, ruling the population on that land. So this is Europe. Europeans came here, settled here. This is what is colonization. They colonized us, they make colonies here. Okay. Colonialism. What is colonialism? Colonialism is the ideology. Colonialism is the driving force, because Britishers had that notion of white man's burden. Britishers had that notion of we are the civilized one, and all the other people, they are actually not civilized. They are backward, traditional societies, uncouth, uncivilized, barbaric, beastly people, and it is our duty to awaken them, to enlighten them, to make them civilized. Their civilizing, so-called civilizing mission. So they came here, with what ideology? With the ideology of colonialism, so as to make colonies here. Imperialism is also a related concept. You can relate it with that. Now, how coloniality is different from colonialism or colonization. Coloniality is about mentality, is about mindset. That is still there. Britishers came, Britishers left us in 1947, but the mindset that they left, the values, the practices, the beliefs, in a very subtle manner, got ingrained in us, got entrenched in us, and we still follow them. In the governance, in the administration, in the judiciary, everywhere you can see the glimpses, you can see the relics of coloniality, of colonial mindset. It is very much there. For example, we greet each other with hi and hello. Why not with namaste? Why do we feel ashamed of doing Jai Shri Ram, Jai Shri Krishna? Why? It is because of we can say coloniality. We have that colonial hangover, that our own indigenous native Bharatiya ways, local ways of doing things, they become not very cool. They become backward. We do not like them, we do not follow them, and we take pride in adopting the English ways. Okay. Language could be one example. In the judiciary, the attire, not only the attire but the mindset, excessive focus on the bureaucratic rules, red tapeism. These are all the signs of coloniality, colonial mindset. The rigid nature of the administrators or the bureaucrats, the lack of compassion and sympathy towards the masses, the people. This is the colonial mindset, and we can actually talk upon it later in some other video, because J. Sai Deepak, who I am inspired by, has written a book on it, India that is Bharat, and I plan to discuss the chapters of that book one by one, so as to comprehensively discuss the concept of coloniality. So we would talk in detail in that video. For now, let us limit ourselves to the Indian Railways and the paradoxical nature of coloniality. So J. Sai Deepak, who is the stalwart, who is a proficient advocate of the concept of decoloniality, says that coloniality is not good. Coloniality is bad. What is coloniality? The colonial mindset, the colonial legacy, the colonial hangover, the relics of the Britishers, and we should get rid of it, and we should go back to our own roots. We should revive the indigenous ways. We should preserve the nativity, indigeneity, Swadeshiness, Bharatiyata in our practices, in our conduct, in our governance, and everything. Okay. So there were many other scholars like Mignolo and others from the West who spoke on decoloniality. This is a relatively fresh concept in the intellectual realm, and in India, J. Sai Deepak has become very popular after he wrote down 2 books. This is the one, India that is Bharat. Oh my god, I have read the entire book, and thus I think that I am capable of making a video criticizing very constructively some of his ideas. And more than criticizing, this is a video that is supplementing the knowledge that he has provided us with, he has produced, you know. So who all favored it? Actually, I have tried to organize the talk in certain points, so I have put certain points over here, 10 to 12 points, and I would try to restrain myself, confine myself around these broad 10 to 12 points. So who all favored it, and for what? Its legacy. Of course, Britishers would favor the coloniality. It was them who actually brought this concept of coloniality, who are behind the coloniality. And after that, there were people in India only, those who were impressed by the Britishers, by the English ways. For example, Nehruji was one, and he favored it. Actually, he thought that yeah, we should learn from the Western ways are good, like that. Who are against it, and for what? Like some people, they say that because of the coloniality, native ways or indigenous ways or indigenous mode of living, lifestyle, indigenous ways of governance, you know, like education, culture, indigenous culture, local culture, bhartiyata, it is all suffering, it is all taking a backseat in the name of, in the guise of globalization, westernization and modernization. What is happening is homogenization and Americanization. That means the local culture is gradually losing its presence and significance, and giving the way to the Western culture, be it in the food, be it in the clothes, be it in the mentality, be it in the religion or other secular spheres. I think there are ample of examples, and I don't need to give them. Rajiv Dixit was one person who supported it, who supported Swadeshiness. The terms maybe were not known to them, decoloniality, but largely the concept, the theme remains more or less the same. These all the concepts like decoloniality, Swadeshiness, Bhartiyakaran, Bhartiyization, Bhartiya revivalism, Indic revivalism, indigenization, nativism, nativity, these all these terms more or less mean the same thing. Okay, that is take pride in the local culture, in the local indigenous Indic ways, revive them, promote them, you know. So Rajiv Dixit was one, and in India, our present establishment, they also have the focus on the same thing. I attended Ram Pratishtha, the inauguration and the consecration ceremony of Shri Ram Lala, though in the theater, but live, wherein Modi ji said that कि गुलामी की मानसिकता से आज़ादी चाहिए, गुलामी की मानसिकता से आज़ादी. Now, so what is that gulami? That gulami is nothing but the colonial mindset that we have. And again, the colonial mindset is not only about the British coloniality, but also about the Middle Eastern coloniality. Because before the British, Middle Eastern people, the invaders, the Mughals, the Sultanate people, they came, invaded India, and got settled here, and of course the native indigenous culture, polity, economy suffered because of that. So there are two types of coloniality. Well, that is another topic, but we would restrict ourselves to the coloniality, and precisely and effectively the Western coloniality as part of this talk. So I have told you, like, the people presently who take pride in the Bhartiya culture, Bhartiya Sabhyata, the fundamentals, those who are the generally labeled as conservative, right-wing people, okay, the present establishment for that matter, generally they believe, either they are aware of these jargons, these technical vocabs, words, terminologies like coloniality or not, but they in their heart believe in the concept of decoloniality. That is it. Okay. And who are against it, or who do not favor it, or who do not see much value in it, are who? Are those who think that yeah, India is a backward society and we should look up to the West. West has done very well, is very progressive. It is because of the West, it is because of the Britishers who came here that we got so many evils removed from our society, and we marched towards the development and advancements. These are the liberals, left people, so to say. So I have told you about the decoloniality, right? Decoloniality basically means that getting rid of, doing away with the colonial ways of doing the things, with the colonial legacy, with the colonial architecture, structures, colonial mindset, firstly and most importantly the colonial mindset which is there. Okay, but broadly coloniality not only means the English mindset, values, beliefs, ways of doing the things, but also the tangible material and objective structures that are the fruits or results of the prolonged like 300 years of English rule in India. So for example, railways, coming now directly to the topic, here we start. Railways are the result of the colonial rule in India on the Indian soil. India did not have the railways. Railways were not invented by the Bharatiya people. Railways were invented in England, and from there the idea, the technology, okay, came to India. Of course, the Britishers had the economic reasons, had the industrial manufacturing reasons, had the selfish motives, imperial motives, but we cannot disagree with the fact that it was the colonial product. It was the देन of Britishers. देन मतलब it is who birthed railways. It is British society who birthed railways. Okay, so they laid down the foundation of the railways in India. The work started, I guess, either in 1830s or 1870s, where first train from Mumbai to Thane covered the distance of 35 kilometers or what. Amazing thing is that during this span of 100 years or so, Britishers laid down 50,000 kilometer tracks of railways in Bharat. Around 50,000 kilometer track in Bharat. This is pretty amazing and astounding. At that point of time, there was not significant progress in the technology, and such massive network of railways covering entire India. Railway is not a small thing. It requires huge resource mobilization. It requires huge planning. It is a work on a very extensive level. A lot of land has to be acquired. A lot of engineering, programming money has to be put there. Okay, and it is all what Britishers did, not the Indians. What Britishers did, it was their idea. Of course, at the same time, I would like to say that Shashi Tharoor, Honorable Shashi Tharoor, he's an MP. He has delivered a talk in Britain, I guess, wherein he exposed Britishers and said that Britishers did the railway, made the railways for their own benefits. I completely agree with Shashi Tharoor ji. I have huge respect for him. I completely agree. I'm not saying that it was for the benefit of the Indian people. They had this idea of unifying India. They had this idea of facilitating the convenient and feasible transport and the commute of the people of India. No, I'm not saying that. All what I'm saying is that just put aside the intentions and look at the objective consequence. Look at the practicality. Look at the present. Look at what you get in the end. Look at from the consequentialist lenses. The consequence was that Britishers left, and of course they could not take with them the extensive railway network that they laid, and it was there in India only to stay for the next 100 and 200 years. Now the problem is when Britishers left in 1947, very numerically and accurately speaking, not really very accurately, but still quite accurately, it was 50,000 kilometers. The length of the railway track was 50,000 kilometers. And in 2017 and 18, as I was reading the data on the internet, the length of the railway track, can you imagine how much it would be? Can you imagine? When the population of India has almost quadrupled, that is, has become 4 times of what it was at the time of independence, and what it is now, as our honorable PM says that there are 1.3 billion people, 125 crore देशवासी, 130 crore देशवासी, and I think now is gonna to be 140 crore देशवासी, when India is gonna surpass the population of China even. We have added only 15,000 kilometers of tracks, only 15,000 kilometers of tracks in the independent India from 1947 till 2015 or 2020. It could be 15,000 or 20,000, not more than that, not more than that. Now, why I'm saying that? Why is the numbers, figures, facts, data, the comparative study become important? This is why. Actually, we people blame Britishers. Of course, they are to be blamed for lot many things. But there is a silver lining in the British rule, which we cannot deny and discard, which we cannot ignore. It was because of the Britishers that the India got extensive network of the railways. When they left, there was extensive network of the railways. And what did the governments in the independent India, what did they do? How many more kilometers of the railway tracks were added in a population that has, in a country that has the population of 1.4 billion? Does 60 to 70,000 kilometer tracks suffice? Do they suffice? Ask yourself. This was my personal experience, wherein my journey got delayed by 14 hours, and it could be said that it was winter, so it happened. A delay of 3 to 4 hours is bearable, but when there is a delay of 15 to 14 hours, and it has become normalized, and we are aspiring to become the Vishwa Guru. We are aspiring to become $5 trillion economy. We are aspiring to guide the globe. Should we not learn from other countries? A friend of mine was telling me, in Japan or in some other countries, even if it is the delay of just 1 minute, then they compensate you. Were we compensated for the inordinate delay of 14 hours? No. Were we given an apology? No. And when we are saying were we or was I, then it is not my personal problem, it is a social problem, because a lot of people suffer from it and people just do not come forward and speak. So don't think that it is a personal problem. Just revive your memories, go back in your past. You must have faced this situation also. If we have traveled in the Indian Railways, and this was no local train, this was a super fast train. This was India's first ISO certified train, which runs on the route which is one of the most fastest route, Bhopal to Delhi route. Okay, in the between, train got derouted. We were like, what's happening? When we searched, when we looked on the Google map, we were going in a different direction. I mean, train was supposed to go like this from Bhopal to Delhi, and in the midway from Agra, train started going here. So train got derouted. We started going in the UP, and then train from the Ghaziabad, finally reached the destination, and it was very troublesome. And on the map, again, one more thing, on the map, on the IRCTC site, it was showing that train is on the right track and on the right time. Train was not genuinely, actually and honestly, the site was not actually and honestly reflecting the right delay in the train. So there were students sitting in the train. They were graduates. Their parents were very much tensed. Can you imagine? Their parents were very much tensed, and they were like, when we called our parents, they asked us, "Beta, where are you?" We said that we are in the train. They were unable to believe. They weren't believing, because parents might think that maybe they have bunked the, maybe they are lying. They have gone somewhere to just chill, things like that. Anxieties and various sort of you know uh, aspersions are casted down on the students, those who are traveling in the train. Food was one more problem. There was no pantry. There were all sort of people. Old age people were there, bache, kids and children were there. There were women. There was a pregnant woman. There was no pantry. They were stopping at the stations where there was no food, or they were mostly stopping the train for long hours, where there is no platform, no station at all. At one point of time, I remember that I had to cross the railway lines on a station which was a very small station in a village, and I had to go deep inside the village so as to look for something to eat, at least something to eat. So many problems there which people faced, I cannot express you in the words. And that actually nudged me to study the Indian Railways comprehensively, taking a bigger look, holistic look, like what is the structural problem, because this is not my personal problem, this is a structural problem. When I went inside, when I digged, when I dived deeper into it, I came to realize that it is the problem because successive governments post independence have not focused on laying down the tracks, railway tracks. What they have done is launching the new trains. So what effectively happening is that, suppose there are two tracks, and generally 10 trains run on this track, and every new day, every other day, there is some new train getting launched, super fast or Vande Bharat or some other trains. What would happen is congestion. Because this track cannot have more than 10 trains running on it at the same time. Track is just same. You cannot run more than a certain number of trains on it. If you are doing that, then you are compromising with the time taken, and if you are compromising with the time taken, that defeats the very purpose of the traveling, that defeats the very purpose of the journey, of the visit, because time is money, time is the most important thing. So what is needed is decongestion. How the decongestion can be done? By laying down the tracks, more and more tracks, by lengthening the tracks, by extending the tracks, by laying down the new tracks. Ask yourself, if you are not from a metropolitan city or a big city, have you got railways in your hometown, around your hometown? No. There are many parts which are still unconnected by railways, and it causes a lot of problems because the buses that run there are actually pathetic, not only in terms of the infrastructure but actually in terms of the time, the long time that they take. This is the main problem with the Indian Railways, that I could, after doing adequate research, reading a lot of articles and journals, and after having this personal lived experience, came to know about, and I'm sharing with you. Crores, I guess 2 to 3 crore people travel in the Indian Railway. Can you imagine? Our whole economy is dependent on the Indian Railways, because it facilitates not only the travel for the people but also the transport of the goods. It is an instrumental part in the manufacturing industry, in the manufacturing sector, or for that matter, I would say in every sector. It is a integral part of the economy of the society. It works also for the national integration. So we cannot actually neglect it. We have to see and face and try to solve the problems. What is ailing the sector, the railway sector? What plagues the railway sector? What is the main issue that I could come up with? Is this discrepancy, is this dissonance between what? Between the rising population, rising burden on the one hand, and the almost stagnant number of track, almost stagnant length of track. See, this is the problem of disproportionality. The railway tracks are not getting multiplied at the same rate at what the population is increasing. Even when the population is not increasing, so of course Britishers left country in 1947, है ना, and they had their own vested interest, economic interest. They came here for exploitation. They exploited us. So of course they would not lay down the railways in every nook and corner of the country. They would choose some select areas which are beneficial for them. They would choose the areas that connect them with the market, with the overseas market, which connect them with the hinterland, so as to source the goods from, you know. So they could not lay down the network in the entire country. It is up to the independent governments. It is up to the governments post independence. What have they done? Is up to ourselves to ask ourselves. Is launching of new trains frequently every other day, flagging of the trains, very nicely built, very aesthetically very clean and shiny, sophisticated, polished trains, will they solve the problem? Will they solve the problem? Or extending the tracks, is the major question you'll have to ask yourself. And again, I'm not saying that you should not aesthetically upgrade the trains, because when I entered in the train, no, this was the first time I was traveling in the third AC economy class, and I was just amazed. I was surprised because I have obviously I had traveled in the third AC, but not the third AC economy, you know. And in the economy section, there was a fan at every berth, there was light at every berth, and the berth bogie was very finely polished. It was very sophisticated. It gave it a very nice and premium touch, and moreover they were providing you the blankets, the cushions, the sheets to sleep on. Oh my god, that the facilities, amenities, the services which they provided were just amazing. And it was AC coach. For the price they were providing it, hats off to them, it is really nice. But please try to understand, all of these facilities which you are providing, they are actually useless when you are unable to complete the journey on time, because they do not matter much. The main purpose of the journey, of the travel, is to reach your destination on time. If you are unable to do that, then all the amenities and services that you are providing are useless. This is an important issue. I hope the people associated with the railways will actually ponder on these points and make some policy amendments to address this larger issue. Indian Railways, the bright side, Vande Bharat third AC economy. Yeah, I told you about my third AC economy experience. It was just awesome. And I'm also saying that hits off to railway because the price is also very, 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 very reasonable. Very reasonable. I think it was 1000 or 1200 rupees ticket of third AC economy from Bhopal to Delhi. And we are having Vande Bharats getting launched, and they complete the journey with a speed of more than 100 kilometers, which is again really awesome. Though the fare is very high, but completion of the journey on time and the speed which they run at is just great, will of course add to the convenience of the passengers. But who only those who can afford, only those who come from the elite section of the society. Next point, Indian Railways personal experiences. Yeah, I told you this thing. There is a dichotomy between the trains and the track. You know, trains are increasing, the number of trains is going up, but not the trains. Tracks are stagnating. Number of the trains are increasing and going up. Thus there is this dissonance, there is this gap, because of this gap what happens is that inordinate delay. Okay. And again let me take you to one more nuance here, taking the class perspective, class angle. When this delay happens, then who gets delayed? What or which train gets delayed? The one which is not the premium train, the one which is not Vande Bharat. Okay, suppose if there is congestion on this track, na, do you think that Vande Bharat would get delayed? No, it will not get delayed. Do you think that Rajdhani Shatabdi would get delayed? No, they will not get delayed. What trains would get delayed? The middle class trains would get delayed. My train was super fast and still it got delayed for 14 hours. Then you can imagine, you can suppose what other trains, the local trains, express trains, would suffer from. Just try to apply the class angle in the trains. Suppose this is a train, this is a train. So from here to here, you can see the class. This is the Indian society in miniature, the Indian train. There would be just two general bogies at the beginning and at the end. Then there would be 5 to 7 sleeper coaches. Then there would be third AC, second AC, first AC coaches, and this is the division of the train in terms of the class, because an upper class person only would travel in the first AC, middle class would travel in second AC, then lower middle class would travel in the sleeper, lower class would travel in the general, and just one more thing, what I have noticed is in the Delhi metro, these class divisions are almost rendered useless, or they cannot be seen, they disappear, the class division disappear, because in the Delhi metro there are no division of the bogies of the train in terms of the class, everybody is charged the same rate, the fare is same, everybody goes there and choose the bogie or the compartment, the dabba on choice and sit there. People of all class, caste, gender, region, religion, they travel in the same bogie, in the same space. This is something great about Delhi metro. Of course, the area which it operates at is very minuscule when compared to the Indian Railway, which has pan-India operation, But just one observation, one comparative observation that I was telling you. Just assume Delhi metro on one side and assume the Indian Railway, an Indian train, the IR train on the other hand. The train has clear-cut division of the train in terms of the class. The dabba which is there, first, second, third AC, sleeper and the general, what do they represent? Nothing but the class. In the same way, there is a division of the trains also. This is the intra-train division. This is intra-train division on the basis of the class. Now, second thing is inter-train division on the basis of the class. So now there are classes in the trains also. So local train, express train are low class train, super fast are middle class train, and trains, premium trains like Vande Bharat, Shatabdi and all, they are premium, first class trains. So what happens is that number of track, the length of the track is not increasing. The number of trains, they are increasing. Now there is this dissonance, there is this discrepancy or disconnect or dichotomy, there is this gap. Can you see the gap? So what would happen is that now inside in the trains also there are classes. I told you this is the premium, class Shatabdi, this is super fast, this is express, this is local train, है ना. So what would happen is this train will be given the priority because the people traveling in this train is upper class people who are paying 2000 rupees for the distance, say 800 kilometers. They are paying more, and these are premium trains, so they will be given the green flag, they will be given the pass, they will be given the priority, and they would pass. At cost of what? At cost of the express trains, at cost of the local trains, at cost of the other super fast trains. Now the pertinent question that arises here is that, do the time, do the lives, do the money, do the presence of people traveling in various coaches of these trains not matter? Does it not matter? I'm not actually expressing my frustration, my personal frustration, because there is a pent up frustration after that experience that I had. It is a 1 month long incident though, so I'm not expressing my personal. This is a social problem. I'm again saying, don't think that it is the personal frustration. No, it is a social problem. In my bogie, in my compartment, in my section only, there were like 4 to 5 people who I interacted with, and they had serious issues, they had serious works. Some had official, some had academic, and they could not do it because of the inordinate delay that they hadn't imagined even in the wildest dreams. So this is not my personal problem that I have come here and ranting or complaining about it. And again I am saying, this is the gap, this is the track, this is the train. In the trains only there are division like premium, Vande Bharat, Shatabdi, this is super fast, this is express, this is express train. If there is congestion, of course there would be congestion because government has not worked on increasing the length of the tracks. This is stagnating. If there is an increase, it is very nominal, it is not sufficient. So what would happen? These trains would pass at cost of what? At cost of these trains. Because earlier there was no Vande Bharat, but now there is Vande Bharat. So Vande Bharat will other trains will be like रुक जाएंगे ही ना for 1 hour, for 2 hours, फिर जाएंगे, फिर पिट जाएंगे. Nice. I hope you got my point. Now there is another important question, which is key. There are people who have quadrupled the population. When we look at the demography of India, then the population burden is so much, the demand is so much. There are more than 2 crore travelers in the railways, and people should travel from the train because it saves time, and it is cheap, it is convenient, it is feasible, it is nice. So why the tracks, the number of tracks, the length of the tracks has not increased as they should have been? Why is there no adequate and sufficient extension of the railway tracks? Why? After the independence, why? This should be asked. One reason that critics often say is that it is very hard to lay down the tracks because of the land acquisition, because of the large resource mobilization planning, and because of the huge time period that is involved there. If you are to lay down the track, then it is not a one-day job, it is a long process. And second thing is that it is not very visible. When you lay down a track, it does not get the attention, the limelight. On the other hand, when you launch a train, then it hits the headlines of the newspaper. When you show the green flag to a train, it hits the headlines of the newspaper. You can go to the munch, the platform, and say that look, we have launched this train or this many trains. To put it in other words, launching a train is good for the political gains, for the electoral gains, for the rhetorics, to attract the people, voters, their views. look, we have done the work. See what have we provided for you. A very nice, well furnished, well polished, very sophisticated train with advanced technology and all. This is one thing. Second, this is its conspicuous nature. Okay, its visibility. And second thing is, it takes lesser time. Because you need to go to the train building uh, facility and build that train at one place. Laying down the track is a very cumbersome process, because the land would not remain the same. Land acquisition is an issue, and it is a time taking process as well, and it might not give you the political advantage as launching the trains can. This is one reason what is cited. Actually there were two, which are cited for this lethargic nature of the establishments post independence in laying down the tracks and increasing the number of the tracks. And yeah, again, one more thing. This is not the first experience with respect to the railways that was shocking for me. There is one more experience. It was like 5 years, 3 to 4 years back, when I was in Indore, and I was on the bridge inside the railway station, and I saw a long queue, a very long queue of people stretching for like stretching for more than 300 to 400 meters. It was a very long queue, and I was just uh, wondering. I was just curious, what is this queue for? And when I went down, I had the reservation in the train. I got to know that the long queue of people is to get inside the general bogie of the train. How many general bogies are there? There are just two, one in the beginning and one at the end. And on the doors were standing uh, cops, policemen. Why? So as to maintain the order, so as to maintain the decency, to ensure that there is no stampede or no quarrels, and everybody like goes in an orderly manner inside the coach, inside the bogie. What do you think would be the capacity of the general coach? The number I have told you, if it is a 20 coach train, barely would be barely there would be two bogies, two coaches of general category which are unreserved, where lower class travel, where the class that travels is lower or lower middle class. And in Indian society you will find that more than 50% of the people are lower to lower middle class people, this is one thing. I was traveling in the metro only, and in the metro, it is about yesterday only, and on the metro were the hoardings of the achievements of the present establishment, and it was written that India government provides discounted or subsidized grains, cereals to 80 crore people. If I am not right with the numbers, it could be like 70 or 60, but not more than that. Even if it is 50 crore people, then it is not very good. It would not be correct to call it shameful, because on the one hand we are counting the strides that we have made in the developmental sphere, the progress that we have done. We are aspiring to become the Vishwaguru, and it is very like contradictory, astoundingly shocking that we have 80 crore people who have to be provided with the subsidized food, who cannot afford the food from their own, who has to rely on the government doles, the dependency culture. This shows about the large inequalities present in the Indian society. This shows about the state of the poverty in the Indian society, isn't it? So when majority of the Indian population is lower and lower middle class is middle class, why are there just two bogies for the general class, for the general people, which are unreserved in the Indian railways? Is a big question. Is a big question. What are the consequences? The consequences, if you have ever traveled, if you have even a bit of sympathy, empathy, and compassion that Lord Buddha Mahavira had for the society, then if not traveling, at least you would sneak peek into the general coach. You would have a quick look, a bird's eye view of the general coach, that how pathetically do people travel there. You will get to know that, oh my god, this is the real India. It is 100 seats coach, but usually there are like 300 people in that coach. Condition is pathetic. It's pathetic. On a seat where ideally 3 should sit, you will find easily 8 people sitting there. On the top where luggage should be kept, you will easily find at least 5 people sitting there. On the small way that is there, that corridor, you will find many people sitting over it and blocking the passage. On the way near the doors, you will find people sitting there near the toilets, and not only near the toilets but even inside the toilets sometimes people sit and travel. Not sometimes, many a times. This is the pathetic state. And at the same time we have got like AC coaches wherein the people are traveling in a great comfort. Now see, I'm not emoting here. I'm not saying that there should be total equality. I know the economics, okay? I know that money has to be generated, revenue has to be generated. General class cannot give the revenue, pay the revenue, educate revenue for the operation, for the maintenance, for the construction of new trains, and for their upkeep and all. That revenue comes from the upper class bogies. That revenue comes from the AC class, and if they are paying the money, they will have to be provided with the same amenities, and we will have to keep the numbers of reserved coaches high so as to generate higher revenue. This is true. But if you are generating the higher revenue, where is this revenue going? Where is this revenue going to if you are not laying down, if you are not increasing the number of the tracks? Because general bogies for always have been 2 or 3 in the trains. Are you getting my point or not? But since we are in the Ram Rajya, this is the Ram Rajya of Shri Ram, we believe in the welfaristic values, not only the constitution but our civilizational ethos of Sarvodaya Antyodaya speaks of good of all, good for all, welfare of all. So we should give a thought. We should have a soft corner in our heart when we are saying we, then the policy makers, for this large section of the society, the lower and lower middle class that comprise of the majority of the Indian population, that travel in the general coaches, where condition is pathetic, is abysmally poor. So the class operates at 2 levels. Since we are seeing it from the class angle, then we'll have to see that class operates at 2 levels. One is there is difference. There are differences in the trains. As I told you, this is Vande Bharat, this is Shatabdi, this is Superfast, this is Express, and this is local trains. There are classes, and class do come with their own privileges and disprivileges. So it will have the privileges. It would reach in 7 hours only. what would happen with this one is this would get inordinately delayed. This would suffer the delay. Not that key only the facilities are suboptimal, but it comes with additional delay. If you choose this train, then it comes with additional the delay, that is an additional disprivilege along with the suboptimal facilities that you are providing. So there is congestion already, there is a huge crowd, there is filth, there is dirt, there is shabbiness, there is discomfort, but along with this there is the delay in this train, you know. So this is first thing. And second thing, inside the train, take this example, like this is a super fast train. Inside the train there are disparities, inequalities, and stark differences, because these bogies, when you look at them, a single person would be sitting on an average in a area of say 1 meter square, okay. In the same space in the general coaches, which are two actually in numbers, one in the beginning and second at the end, 8 to 10 people would be sitting in the same space, in the very same space. Now what you can say is that ki they pay higher, that is why they sit here. They pay higher, that is why they sit here, you know. My another question is, if they do not have the capacity to pay, does it mean that they should not have the right to travel with dignity, with decency? Where are the welfareistic principles? Where are the principles of Ramraj? Where are the constitutional principles of justice, equality, and affirmative action, and welfareistic policy measures? Is the question that we'll have to ask ourselves. The second thing is that if the number of the people traveling in these coaches is higher, then why are there not adequate and enough number of trains which are actually meant for the people traveling in these coaches? Because number is higher, no, so you should have some arrangement, some preparation. For example, there are Antyodaya trains, but they are, as far as I know, 10 to 12 only, which are totally unreserved trains. But there are like 10 to 12 only in a country that has one of the highest the highest population in the country, in the world. These are some pertinent questions which I think people with the sociological imagination, sociological lenses only can actually analyze, can only actually observe, and can give the inputs to the people sitting at the helm of the policy making, so that they bring the necessary reforms in the policies which suit the ground reality, which suit the demands, local demands. So this was the class angle. The train that I was talking about, that had the long queue of the people, was Malwa, you know. And there is a YouTube channel with the name Monkey Magic. He actually made a vlog. In the 10-minute, I guess it is a 30-minute video, he actually showed us his journey from Kanyakumari, which is in the northern part, to the Kashmir, which is in the southern part. Sorry, the other way around. Okay? So you can watch that video so as to know that how poorly do these people in the general coaches travel, how pathetic is the situation. Next is speed 100 versus 300 comparison. Yeah, if we take the comparative look at the Indian Railway, since we are going to become the Vishwa Guru, and railways are very important, very instrumental in the development of any country. They form a very pertinent central part of the economy, of the society, of the nation. and they should be not only structurally developed, but they should be robust in their working, you know. So when we compare the speed of the trains with the speed of the trains in Germany, in France, in US, or say in Japan and China, then India lags behind. Trains there travel at 250 kilometers per hour, 200 kilometers per hour, while in India, barely, hardly, rarely does the train go beyond 100 kilometers. And when you are already like traveling, when you are already running the train at 80 kilometers, even in that, if bring the delays, then it is not right. And now the things has become so much severe, and because of this prolonged nature of this Indian railway inefficiency, it has now become normalized. People have normalized it. People have internalized it कि अरे वो तो होते ही है, ऐसा चलता है culture, क्या करें, अब होते ही है. You see, so trains in China, in Japan, they reach up to the speeds of 300 easily, and generally it is in all the developed country the speed of the train is over 200 kilometers, but it is not there in India, you know. And we are running at 100 kilometers on the same tracks that Britishers built. Now here is the paradoxical nature of the coloniality. The people who bashes coloniality, the people who criticizes, who censures, who actually you know uh, label, who actually throw slurs at the Britishers, at the English people, they should actually, with the open mindedness, if not accept, then at least look at this thing, look at this benign nature of the British rule on India, that it was the very Britishers who they slammed day and night, that they laid down the wide network of railways, 50,000 kilometer track, which is still serving you, which you are still using those 100 or 150 kilometer old tracks. I know their intentions were bad. I'm not giving the Britishers a clean sheet that they came here and laid the track for us to integrate and unify the country, to facilitate the travel of the people and the uh, growth of the local domestic manufacturing units. No, they did for their own benefits, but at least they did. What have you done? What have we done? We, the Bharatiya people, our governments, what have we done? Have we actually at least adequately added to the existing track lengths? No, we haven't. This is the one reason why the speed of the train is lower, why it cannot be increased to a higher speeds of 150 or more, because the tracks are so old. It dates back, they date back to the British era. Some are replaced, updated, some are not, but we cannot deny this fact that it is the British colonialism, which is the reason for the railways, and the sheer fact that Indians, Bharatiya people, so-called Bharatiya people, could not update, could not expand the railway network, which was actually the brainchild of the Britishers, says that ki there is still the colonial mindset, colonial hangover, as the Britishers at that point of time laid down the network for their own benefits, vested interest. In the same way, we can say that from the Marxist view, we can say that the people who are at the helm of the railway governance, the Indian railway people, bureaucrats, they have the elitist mindset, and they cannot think from the class perspective. They cannot think for the people of the lower classes, and thus they keep on launching the new trains rather than increasing the track, because anyways upper class elite people would somehow finish their journey, reach their destination on time, paying higher, traveling in the premium trains. Well, who would suffer? Who would suffer? Are the masses, are the common people who travel in the general train, who travel in the general bogies. So, is it the perpetuation of the same colonial mindset that is present in the that can be seen in the governance, in the people who are there in the helm, at the helm of the governance? Because if they cared for the masses, for the democracy, for the entire demos, entire people of all the sections, of all the classes, then they would have certainly come up with some solution. Solution could be many, could be various innovative solutions, not only the extending of the track, but undeniably it is the important one. But there could be another solutions as well, but they haven't come, they haven't done enough. So is it the perpetuation of the same colonial mindset, the same revenue generating mindset? Well, we cannot totally say yes, because at least there are two bogies for the general section, and the travel fare of Indian Railways, personally speaking, is very reasonable, is very cheap. But these are some questions which we should ask ourselves, we should reflect on. We talked about the speed comparison, okay, and there is one more thing. In Japan or in China, in somewhere, if it is the delay of even 1 single minute, then they compensate you for the loss of your time, because time is money. It is very valuable. Nothing is valuable than time. On the other hand, we see in India delays of 3 to 4 hours are very normalized. We have internalized it. We generally whenever there is a train and we are to leave at some place somewhere, then we would go not much before the time, knowing that कि अरे train तो late होनी है, इतनी तो late होगी, and mostly they are late. So we have internalized it, let alone asking for the compensation and all. But should there be compensation? Will it bring the proficiency? Will it bring the efficiency? Will it bring the accountability in the Indian Railways, when the government is hell bent on privatizing the things, on corporatizing the things, on making the disinvestments? Then this question should arise, that should there be some mechanism to hold the Indian Railways accountable when they have the monopoly in the sector, there is no competition? This is a very pertinent question. These are some important questions. What I did was the participant observation, or you can say ethnographic sociological study. In the train I would be uploading that reportage also on the same channel. But from that experiences, what I gained, what I learned, it was actually motivation, the inspiration was that. But later on I dived deeper into the issue and read articles and research papers, watched videos, and knew about other aspects, interacting with other people associated with the railways, and thus I could pose such questions, these questions. If we look at it from the class perspective, then firstly, for the lower class, there are no bogies. There are just 2 bogies that are not sufficient, and they had to travel in a pathetic state. And the second thing is, there are very less trains. I'm a middle class person, but even I think twice, or even sometimes I do not even think of traveling in high-end trains like Vande Bharat, which charge you 2000 rupees for traveling from Bhopal to Delhi, when a normal train with the sleeper bogie in it will charge you 500 if you travel in sleeper, and 1000 if you travel in third AC, you know. So firstly, like for the lower and middle class, which comprise almost like 60% of the Indian society, there are no bogies. Even if there are bogies, then there are just two in the trains, and sometimes there are even like no specific dedicated trains most of the times. Because Antyodaya, which is a nice concept, let me tell you about it. It is a train which is for the people who travel in the subsidized fares. I mean, it is totally unreserved Antyodaya train. You know, no AC coaches are there. So there are very few of them. It is a nice concept, although, but there are very few of them. So this is how class works in the Indian Railways, you know. And the topic of the talk is paradoxical nature of coloniality, right? Paradoxical coloniality, like this is invented by me only, I named this thing. So this is the paradox of the coloniality. On the one hand, it is the coloniality, it is the colonization, it is the colonial powers, it is the British power, which, you know, has to be given the credit for the Indian Railways, you know. And on the other hand, it is the colonial mindset that is prevailing in the Indian people who are at the helm of the governance, who are in the at the top of the Indian Railways, that they have not made adequate reforms. They have not made adequate reforms, or the people who are the part of the government, you know, that they cannot connect with the plight of the common people, common man, masses, lower class people. This is the colonial hangover, right? Because we are not seeing the tracks to be laid down as much as we are seeing the trains, new trains getting launched. And what are those trains? Most of them are high end premium trains, which would cater to a, you know, specific class of the society, which is the upper class, you know. So there are a lot of reasons to bash coloniality, to bash colonizers, Britishers, you know. And thus we look for decoloniality, thus we go for decoloniality. But there was a silver lining in the colonial rule, in the British rule, and there are some intended or unintended consequences of the British rule on India. And the large network that they laid, the large railway network that they laid is one such. And that is why I say that this is the paradox of coloniality, you know. And how it intersects with the class, we discussed it from the class perspective, you know, wearing the sociological lenses. So yeah, again, a very pertinent question that arises here is, does Indian Railways have elitist bias? Does Indian Railway have elitist bias? Why and how? I told you, when you look at the class composition of the Indian society, then lower class comprises of majority of Indian population. But when it comes to the railways, then there are just two coaches, you know, made for them. Do the lower class, middle class, do they not travel in the railways? Do they not need the railways to travel? Do they have some superpower in their legs that they can go from one place to another place on their feet? They do need to travel, no? They also have the need to travel. Okay, they also have the need to travel. They have a large share in the population. Majority of the population are they. Then why are there just two coaches in the Indian Railways reserved for the general people, when the people who travel there travel in pathetic situation, in a very congested manner? People throng there and like 8 to 10 people sit on the seat which can accommodate ideally only 3 people. We are just talking about the space. Availability of other things like water, food, cleanliness is a thing which we cannot even think of. No, they are not our priorities, concerns, and our desires. All we need is just a space where we can put our buttocks on. That's it. We are also not talking about the safety and security. No, just the space. And that 1 square foot space is a luxury in the general coaches. So this actually makes us think that does Indian Railway have the elitist bias? And even today, when we are talking of Sarvodaya, Antodaya, Vikasit Bharat, inclusiveness, inclusive development, है ना, Ram Rajya and all, even today, are we doing enough to cater to the needs of this section of the society? Is something that we'll have to ask ourselves, and that is the reason I said why Indian Railways have apparently elitist bias. I'm not making any conclusive claims here. I'm not giving conclusive opinions. I'm just merely asking the questions, and uh, I might be wrong, and I very humbly accept it. Okay, so if you have the counter arguments, put them down in the comment section below. I'll be more than happy to entertain them. I'm happy to change myself. I'm not somebody who's very expert in this. I'm just sharing my lived experiences and my own vision. How do I see it? Next point is, does Indian Railway have no practical significance in present time despite their colonial origins with selfish interests? So as Sashi Tharoor was saying that Indian Railways was not a gift of Britishers to India. It was not a benign thing, but they did it. They actually constructed it for their own selfish economic interest, so as to exploit the India and Indian people more, speedily, and a lot of money of Indians from India went in the Indian Railways. That he links with the drain of wealth. You must have read Dada Bhai Naroji. He spoke about drain of wealth, and Indian Railways was one way for draining the wealth of India. But despite these all the things, I'm not denying them. They might be true. Okay, for instance, let's assume that they are true. But does this fact negate the practical importance and significance of Indian Railways in the present time? Okay, the intentions, the motivations, the motives were not good. The motives of the Britishers were not good. But are you not getting the benefit of the same inventions, the same projects that Britishers laid? Are you not getting the benefits of it? No, we are. No, we are. So is it not the paradoxical nature of coloniality? Is it not the paradoxical nature of coloniality? This is the paradox, because you cannot outrightly, slam or discard the coloniality. This is some, I guess, bright side of coloniality. Next is how successful is Indian state upgrading and expanding the Indian Railway? An Indian state, I would say, has failed. I'm not pointing out on any particular government, and this is not a thing of very present. This is a cumulative failure, because right from independence there has not been enough emphasis on increasing the length of the tracks, making the Indian Railways more inclusive, more democratic. So yeah, Indian Railways, Indian state is not very successful in expanding the Indian Railways. When it comes to upgrading the Indian Railways, so yeah, this particular establishment has done a nice job, which is visible through the incorporation of modern technology, advancements, and sophistications, such as the third AC, as I told you, in the normal super fast trains, and the new trains such as Vande Bharat, catering to the upper class of the society. So yeah, there we can see the upgradation. Next point is, what is train commuter class dichotomy? Dichotomy, I have already stressed upon it. India has a large number of lower to lower middle class population that cannot afford the fare more than the sleeper coaches, you know. And even in the unreserved coaches, you will find many people traveling without the fares, you know. So either you can complain them ki look, they travel without the fare, they don't have ethics, they don't have morals, they don't follow the rules and the laws, you know. And this is why their bogies should be curtailed to two two, because they do not help in generating the revenues. Either you can do this, or you can think it in this way also, कि they are so poor that they cannot afford the fare of even unreserved or general coach, isn't it? This is another way of looking at it. Or third way of looking at it, how inefficient, insufficient is the railways workforce, manpower, is the network of the TCs or TTs, you know, in terms of their numbers, and secondly in terms of their conduct, ethical conduct and professional conduct, that they cannot ensure the adherence to the rules, such as buying the tickets and getting in the train, boarding the train. There could be the adoption of the technology as well. There could be the adoption of the technology as well, so as to ensure that people who have the tickets travel in the train. So there are three ways, let me conclude them. Either you can blame the people themselves, कि they have weak morals, or you can blame the railways, that they have weak mechanism to ensure the adherence of the people to the rules, such as buying the tickets and then boarding the train. Or we can look at it in this way, that look how stark are the inequalities, or how intense or extensive is the poverty, that people even in the general coaches have to travel without the tickets. They cannot, bear the charges of the train when they are very minimal. And of course they are, heads off to the Indian Railways, they provide the journey, they facilitate the journey at a very cheap rate. For example, when you travel from Bhopal to Delhi, then it costs you, I guess, not more than 250 rupees if you travel in the general bogie, and that is phenomenal, that is great. If you travel by bus, say even 150 kilometers, then they would charge you 250 rupees. And here in the Indian Railway, you are traveling from Bhopal to Delhi, that is covering the distance of say 600 to 700 kilometers in just 250 rupees. So yeah, this is something great. And I guess that railways can actually increase the fares of the general train, and can actually make the system, make the mechanism, make the administration more robust, using the technology, using the training, using the accountability mechanism, so as to ensure that the people, those who are entering into the general bogie, are having the tickets, or for that matter in any bogie. This is one more thing. And third thing is that there could be within the general, there could be the segregation of the people, like certain sections of the society coming from the socially, educationally backward sections. For example, the people who are divyang, PWD, or the old age people, women, they could be charged lesser, and the other ones could be charged higher. And I think this happens also, in some degree. These are some innovative solutions, innovative tweaks that can be made so as to make railways more efficient and more inclusive. Basically, I was talking about train commuter class dichotomy. What is train commuter class dichotomy? So dichotomy is simple. We have got the lower class and middle class, say 60 to 70% of the total population, but there are just two bogies which are not sufficient and adequate, and thus they have to travel in a pathetic situation which impedes and violates their human rights. Next question is, how justified is the defensive argument of profitability in the welfare state? This is a very nice argument, because whenever we raise the questions, we ask the questions to the Indian Railways for the pathetic state in the general coaches, then it says that it is all because of the profitability, because so as to maintain the operational and maintenance cost, so as to remain going on, remain solvent, not become bankrupt or insolvent, we have to charge higher. To whom? To the people, those who are traveling in the AC coaches, reserved coaches, and only those traveling in the reserved coaches will pay us the cost, the actual cost of traveling, not those who are traveling in the general coaches. And thus we cannot increase the number of the general coaches, because it does not generate the revenue to us. What generates the revenue? The revenue comes from the AC coaches, the reserved coaches. Thus we have to make sure their numbers are higher. This is the argument which on the face looks good, looks appealing, looks logical, because it is an economic venture at the end of the day. But we should not forget the fact that Indian Railways is not totally a private entity. Second, it is a government entity. It is the PSU, and government has the agenda, has the commitment to ensure the welfare in the society, to ensure justice in the society. Even the constitution, the preamble for that matter, though the word was later added, was not in the original constitution, says that we are a socialist state. So we see, it is not because of this word particularly in the constitution. We from the very old times have been following the ideals of Sarvodaya Antyodaya. It is a very cardinal feature of the Ram Rajya that we have. So is it not the moral duty of the state to ensure the human rights of the people traveling in the general coaches? Is it not the constitutional duty of the state to ensure that they have a safe and decent journey? Is it not? If it is not, then why are we providing grains to 80,000 people at a subsidized rate? If it is not, why are we giving free homes to the people under PM Awas Yojana? If it is not, then why are we giving the gas cylinders under Ujjwala Yojana? Why are we opening the accounts for free under Jan Dhan Yojana? Why? We are all doing this because we know Indian society is different from the Western society, because there are a large number of people, there is a segment of people who are downtrodden, who are actually backward, who do not have the sufficient resources to live a dignified life on their own, and state will have to interfere, will have to come for their help. So is it not the responsibility of state to come here as well? They might say that they are already there because there are two coaches already in most of the trains. Now the question is, are they sufficient? Are they enough? Have the railway officials or the officers sitting at the helm, have they ever traveled? Have the elite people, elite ruling class of the society, the politicians, the people from the government, have they traveled in the general coaches and witnessed how pathetically do people travel there? So it is all about the Ram Raj, it is about the welfare state. Since we are in welfare state, we cannot show the tendencies of a totally capitalist society. This is not totally a capitalist society. Next question is, how productive is the utilization of funds? Is there need for policy reorientation in the railways? Is a very good question. How productive is the utilization of funds? As I told you, this is the nice question, because I've seen in a couple of stations that funds are getting used or utilized in upgrading the stations, in upgrading the platforms, in their modernization, and in their extension when it is not actually required. So I got down at Vidisha station. Near it is Ganjavasuda station, and there was construction work going on in both these stations. And I was like, why was there a need to recreate, renovate, or remake the entire station? Even the people there, they did not know. They were like, acha tha, I don't know why they are doing it all. Maybe they have got extra funds, so they are putting the money here in the aesthetic upgradation of the platforms. What impact will it make? Because I never, on both the platforms, I've been a frequent visitor to these platforms, never did I ever feel the congestion there. Everything was just a place. Could they have not used the same fund for the expansion of the tracks? Could they have not used the same funds in the laying down of the railway tracks in the areas which are untouched by the railways in the hinterlands? There are places having population of 50,000 or even more but have no railway connectivity. Could they have not used the fund there? Why are you reinventing the wheel? When the wheel is already there, why are you reinventing it? Well, I do not know much about it, but still these are some common questions that come to my mind. And this is not the first time. I have seen it like some other places. My maternal uncle, he lives in Vidisha only, and in his colony they have laid down the road, street road, thrice, for no reason. Now, like earlier, this was the road, and this was his house. Now the road has been leveled up thrice, once, two, thrice. Now the road has gone to this height, and his house, it actually came down vis-a-vis the height of the road. Now the winter water or other gets inside the house. Why? Because there is excess of funds. The colony members were telling them, why are you building the road and making the nuisance, creating the problems here, troubles here for the people during the construction and post construction? The road which is there is just perfect, it's doing fine. But since they had excessive funds, and they had to make the use of the funds, they had to show it like they are doing something with the fund, they reinvented the wheel. Should not it be spent judiciously, prudently, on the things that matter, than the things that might attract the sight of the people but not matter that much? Modernization versus expansion, Indian realities. Yeah, this is another important question, and it is related to the question that we have addressed just now. Just a second. Yeah, so the question is modernization versus expansion, Indian realities. Okay, so what is Indian reality? The Indian reality is India has the population of 1.4 billion people. If you look at the landmass, or if you look at the population, which is arguably the most, which is arguably the highest in the world, then India needs extensive network of the railways, extensive network of the tracks. The present tracks, which is just 15,000 kilometer more than what Britishers left, is not adequate and sufficient enough to cater to the needs of the humongous population. This is the Indian reality, and this is not the case with other countries like Japan, like Switzerland, and many more. Why? Because they are relatively smaller countries, both in terms of the size, the landmass, and in terms of the population. So already there are adequate, tracks. The network is adequate. It would take lesser time to develop the network, so they can actually go for the modernization, upgradation, and the aesthetics, the beautification of the trains, of the platforms, of the infrastructure, right? But should this be the priority in Indian context? Should this be the priority in India? We should ask ourselves, we'll have to ask ourselves, because a primary purpose of the railways, or any mode of transportation or commutation for that matter, is completion of the journey on time. Completion of the journey, first thing, and second thing, on time, is utmost and paramount, has paramount importance. It utmost important. If it is not getting fulfilled, then there is no use of aesthetic upgradation of the trains or of the platforms. When you have you built the platforms to provide us the amenities and facilities, because ki train is gonna to be late, there would be delay for sure. So why not to give the passengers a good stay? So this is something which Indian Railways, I think, should broadly ponder upon. Expansion versus modernization. I guess expansion is important in Indian context. Of course, we should go for modernization, but priority should be the expansion to cover the areas which are uncovered, untouched by the Indian Railways, and to fasten the process, to to speedify the trains, to take the speeds of the trains at least to 150 to 200 kilometers, if not the 300 kilometers, like China and other countries. Next is, what are the main objectives of railways? Then I told you the main objective of the railways is ensuring fast and cheap travel. Cheap because economies of scale is there, since so many people are traveling in the train. Cheap because railway has the monopoly, and fast because it is railways, it is not bullock cart or anything else. So these should be the main priority of railways. Because see, I also praised railways when I first went in the AC coach for the great amenities and services which they are providing, especially the blankets, white sheets, the cushions, and all. But it all gets negated, it all gets overshadowed by the by the huge delay that is caused in the journey. Yeah, so we forget about these all the amenities and the aesthetic beauty of the train. What is important is the completion of the journey on time. Does the functioning align with the principles of Sarvodaya, Antyodaya, Inclusivity, Welfare State? We have talked about it extensively. Next question is, do we need a revamp? Do we need revamp, reorientation or restructuring of Indian Railways? Yeah, we do. We do. And I would like you people to comment in the comment section below the suggestions. What do you have? What suggestions do you have? If you have ever seen, ever experienced such a huge delay and ever seen the stark inequalities in the Indian Railways in the bogies, then what suggestions do you suggest? One could be the launching of Antyodaya trains, which are exclusively for the lower class people. These are unreserved trains, totally unreserved. This could be the one. Second, I think, could be the taking the fares slightly up, increasing the fares for the general bogie, because it is too cheap and I think people can actually pay. Third, I think, I personally believe, could be the training both professional and ethical to the TCs, and inclusion of the technology so as to make sure that only those with the tickets are traveling in the train or even entering into the platforms, you know. This is third thing. What else? Of course, like laying down the tracks, increasing the length of the tracks, their upgradation, their extension. It is the most important step. What else? Please put them down in the comment section below if some thoughts come to your mind. Colonial hangover, no accountability, responsibility and sympathy. Yeah, this is another thing. This is what is like colonial hangover, because when I was traveling in the train, uh, which was delayed by 14 hours, the journey spanning between uh, Bhopal and Delhi, there was no pantry in the train, so effectively, virtually, there was no food available for us, है ना. We actually boarded the train at 10 p.m. and we were supposed to get down the train at 7 a.m. the next morning. But not only did we miss our breakfast, but also the lunch, and even for that matter the dinner, you know, because train reached a Delhi station at almost 11 p.m. There was no facility, no food facility which was provided by the IRCTC. What is that? How will we manage our food? There was no information that was given by the IRCTC on its app. Why was no information conveyed to us? Why weren't we updated with the change of the route? Because train was derouted, misrouted. If it is winters, then if it is fog, then yeah, delay of say 2 to 3 hours to 4 hours is actually reasonable, is tolerable and is justifiable. But the delay of 14 to 15 hours is not justifiable. You have eaten up the whole day of the passengers. This felt like a prison. There were children whose parents say they are now getting mentally retarded because they aren't getting food, and this place is just too much to be here. I remember there was a video which went viral. There was a man sitting inside the plane, I think in Delhi, and the plane got delayed. It was Indigo or uh, Air India, I don't know. And that man became so agitated and frustrated after waiting for a long time that he went to the captain and started beating him. He slapped him. He slapped the captain when the lady crew member came there and said that you cannot talk like that. You cannot talk like that. I'm not justifying the act of the man. I'm just saying that this was the frustration level. This was the frustration level which actually people go through, because we are human after all, in such a state when there are such inordinate delays. And I think that since he was an upper class guy and maybe like he was exceptional, so he gathered the courage to channelize his anger and frustration. Though I'm not justifying that, I'm just saying that generally middle class people who are traveling in trains, generally they try not to, you know, get into the feuds, not to get into the uh, controversies and to they have this capacity के चलता है, चलो सहन कर लेंगे, चलो कोई नहीं, है ना. But that is, I guess, is not that right. We should raise the voice wherever it is necessary. So yeah, there was actually no accountability, no responsibility and sympathy from the railways. There were all section of the people missed their work. They should have been provided the compensation, because there was no compensation. That means there is no accountability, maybe because of the monopoly that they enjoy. What's Indian Railways hypocritic convenience in becoming private or private public body? Yeah, so Indian Railways take this convenient position to become the private and public body. If Indian Railways is going towards the privatization, going towards the professionalism, then should the Indian Railways not compensate this or inordinate delay? Because any private entity, professional body would actually compensate. Firstly, there would not be such inordinate delays or such discomforture, inconvenience to the customers who are availing the services. And if it is there, then they would compensate it, so that's not very uh, professional of the IRCTC or the Indian Railways. And what is this inconvenience thing? What's Indian Railways hypocritic convenience in becoming private public body? So here in this matter, it became a public body, but yeah, when it comes to the charges, then it becomes a private body, that so as to get the revenue generated in large amount, so as to make the profits. We will actually discriminate with the lower classes. We would just give them two bogies, two coaches, and we would reserve most of the coaches for the reserved category. Why? Because they have to generate the revenue, they have to make the profit. This is the trait of the private entity, this is the trait of the private body. But when there is a huge delay, that is so unprofessional, of any organization or company, then Indian Railways hides where at the back of the government charade that look, we are a public body, so we cannot compensate and that all, because we are a public body. And public sector mein what happens is chalta hai culture, it is okay, it is now normalized. So what's this convenience, what's this hypocritic convenience? Like, you take the positions conveniently, when it is about the delays, जब आप बोल, when we are asking to compensate for the delays, you are saying that we are a public body. And when it comes to allotting the bogies to the various classes, then you will allot most of the bogies to the sleeper coaches, to the reserved coaches. Why? Because you need to make the money, you need to make the profits. That is a trait of a private entity. Well, I don't know how adequately could I answer this question, but broadly I think this is the case. Next question is, what could be the solution for bridging the inequalities in the Indian Railways? So certainly there are inequalities in the Indian Railways, and I'm not a fan of equality. I think I know that is not very practical to achieve on the surface, and I'm not saying that there must be inequality. There must be equality, but at the same time there should not be abject poverty. In the general coaches, what you find is the abject poverty, the destitution of the people is quite visible on their face. People travel in pathetic state there. Someday if you stand there only for the 5 minutes, then you will realize, you will get to know that how pathetically do they stay there and travel in these coaches. So yeah, there are inequalities, but what could be the solution to bridge them? What could be the solution? I think solutions are same that we have discussed. At least the numbers, firstly the numbers should increase, numbers of the general coaches, they should increase. Then the vigilance, surveillance mechanism, that all the people who are traveling with a ticket, and hike in the fares, inclusion of the technology so as to ascertain that ensure that all the people are following the rules traveling with the tickets, or some methods. Until the trains is one another way. Why does Indian Railway not add general or sleeper? Most travel without tickets. The trend has been that of late there is an increase in the AC coaches, and there is a reduction in the general coaches and even the sleeper for that matter in some trains. The logic that is given often is that because AC coaches do not let the air to pass, so it is easy for the train to pick up the speed, to pick up the pace easily. The one reason why trains in the west travel at such fast speed is that they are AC trains. In the AC trains, the friction is less, friction of the air is less, so train would just pass like while on the sleeper trains there are windows, so that reduces the speed of the train, that impacts the momentum that it can pick up. That could be one reason why the sleeper coaches are going down. But I think Indian Railways should care for the people coming from the lower segment of the society as well, who travel in the sleeper and the general only. Now what's happening is that sleeper has become the new general. This is another major problem of the Indian Railways, because there are only two general bogies which are not sufficient, which are not adequate. And I think, let us assume that almost everybody who's traveling in the general bogie will carry a ticket. Now suppose that if I, for that matter, am on the platform am on the platform and finds that general bogie is just jam packed, there is no space to even put your feet, then I would choose the sleeper bogie, even though I can get caught, but I will pay the TC extra money, or I'll get down the next station and take risk, hypothetically speaking, but I will invade the space of the people traveling in the sleeper classes. So what happens is that even the person who has paid the money to travel in the sleeper classes is not getting the comfort, is not getting the amenities that he or she deserves. Because suppose you, or for that matter anybody, is traveling in the sleeper class and there comes the uh, rush, the people just flood the train, from the people with the general ticket in the hand flood the train, and there comes a lady or children and ask you for the seat, will you not give them? You will give them, so what's happening now is that because of this policy of the Indian Railway, the skewed nature of the bogies that are allotted to various sections, the population of the lower class is higher, and the space provided in the general coach is not sufficient to them, so they go and invade the sleeper coaches, and now there actually it creates a problem for the people, those who are in the sleeper coaches. Sometimes people even get on the AC coaches, even people with the general ticket get on the AC coaches even. Why? Because there is no space left for them. Merely two coaches, one in the front and the other on the end, will not be enough for them. So this is where Indian Railways should pay heed. And another thing is said that Indian Railways is actually suffering from the loss because of the double cross subsidization. Because Indian Railways is actually effectively in a net manner, is in net profit, but it suffers loss from the passenger segment, and it actually earns the profit from the freight means the luggage, the manufacturing goods and other things that it carries from one place to another. It earns from that, and it actually suffers loss from the passenger train because of the subsidy that it provides for the passengers to travel. Otherwise, no other transport would take you from Bhopal to Delhi. No other transport would, walk you 600 kilometers in just 200 rupees, 250 rupees. That is super. That is amazing. But Indian Railway is doing that, you know. So it is said that it is not generating revenue. But what I have found is that there are some tactics which Indian Railways employs so as to increase the revenue. One is, of course, the Tatkal one, wherein the fare goes up by uh, say 20% or even more. There is another category that I discovered. I was booking a ticket from a friend of mine, and I was like, "Bhai, Tatkal kar dena." He said, "Yeah, Tatkal is gone. There is no Tatkal." Then I was like, "What else could be done?" He says that premium kar dunga, premium. Then I asked him like, what is premium? And he said premium is another category of tickets wherein you'll have to pay higher than even the Tatkal, and you will get a seat for sure. So these are some mechanisms I think, and similar other mechanisms could be employed so as to earn the uh, profits, because railway is something people would people will actually use even if you increase the fare, you know. It is unsubstitutable. There is no substitute of railway. There are flights, the charges are abnormally high, people cannot afford. Then there are buses which have their own operational limitations, they cannot run on longer routes. So railways is the only option. And when it is so, then they'll have to come up with some mechanism to make some changes in the fares, in the, just as there are tax slabs, similarly in the fare slabs slabs, and do some sort of rethinking and reorienting the things so as to uh, achieve both the goals. First one of being of maintaining a liquidity, of being financially stable and robust, and second thing of ensuring the social justice, of ensuring the inclusivity in the in its operation. But yeah, if you have like watched this whole podcast, then tell me down in the comment section what are your views. Were you able to relate with the concepts? And if you have got any suggestions, any complaints, you can put them down in the comment section below. If you want me to discuss on some other issue, if you have any topic in your mind related to coloniality, decoloniality, or related to any aspect of the society, social institutions, processes, events, or contemporary events, especially related to the gender and coloniality and religion, then please let me know in the comment section down below. And yeah, if you want to visually see how is the journey in the general coach and the railway is like, then you can watch this vlog Monkey magic. This guy spent 4 days in the general coach, and he has brilliantly shown it. The title of the video is I spent 4 days in general compartment of train. The video is from Monkey Magic. So yeah, that was it. The topic was paradoxical coloniality, and this is the paradox of coloniality. This is the paradoxical nature of the coloniality. On the one hand, the decolonial scholars like J. Sai Deepak, they are actually against the coloniality. They criticize it, they want to decolonize Indian mindset, culture, values, uh, governance, administration, and everything. And on the other hand, it is this visible uh, intended or unintended consequence of the colonial rule, colonial presence, that is actually benefiting the Indian society significantly. It is this network that was laid down by the Britishers, which is helping us commuting from one place to another place at a very cheap rate, and it is integrating, unifying the country, binding the country, helping in the propagation of the culture from one place to another place, and building the base of the economy. This is the paradoxical coloniality. If you like the concept paradoxical coloniality, tell me in the comment section below. I have spoken for almost 2 hours, and I think it is the high time we should end it here. If you have any topic, feel very free, be totally unhesitant to share your views in the comment section below. Signing off. Jai Hind.